This conference will now be recorded.
Before we begin, we must provide a disclaimer that the following information provided is not investment advice. Our methods, teachings, and content are for educational purposes only. All materials and lessons are protected assets of Strategies LLC. Any plagiarism or sharing of our content is strictly prohibited, and any violator is subject to applicable laws. Now that we're past that wonderful stuff, welcome to the advanced lesson. And which one are we talking on today? IO and Q. Who is going to be going over it? I will teach. So, who wants to have a go at this?
I can go ahead. It's been a while.
Yep, there you go. All right, let's start.
All right, so this is IO and Q right at the open. Just going into this, we already know this is not a newer story, but this has been building for quite some time. So going in there with that, kind of knowing that information. Still not seeing anything stand out. There's a few shorter term prints, but nothing we can really base anything around off of.
Yep. Now, knowing that you had all this building going on, some might presume that if you've got the volume, why do you need to see anything in there? Well, here's the reality. If it's done building and it's going to release, wouldn't you see alignment of those looking to make money in that money time move?
For sure.
Now, the only thing that I remember when I saw this that I did like was how the buying or the print started coming in at 29.80 and it doubled up. Did you notice that?
Are you talking about like this 2980 and then the alignment right above?
Yep. And remember, this was trading in 20-cent increments. So 29.80 can be controlling for a short period.
Understood.
Not saying that it's an entry, but I'm saying you got to start looking at pieces of the puzzle, don't you?
Yeah.
I still didn't take this. I agree with what you were saying. I did like those 29.80s. They doubled up, but the problem was one, they were too close to 30. It was just too close. There's nothing you can do when it's that big of a number next to it. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
So keep going. No,
So
that was
30 hit, 30 hit massively, and there's prints above. So now I'm thinking that, this is more of a build situation, and not that this is going to build conventionally, but this seems like they're going to build. That's what they're looking to do here.
still. Do you think there was a way to even trade that?
No, that was like pretty much a take, so you could never even
Yeah.
trade at that.
Listen, I did not touch this because there's nothing high percentage there. When that 30 comes in and there's nothing underneath, even with the 30-20, you're looking for a pullback. You're not looking for the next bar to take everything out at 30-50. This is pure build, but it's not necessarily tradable, is it?
Exactly.
And that's fine. I didn't trade this. I couldn't trade this because there was nothing there to a high percentage that would allow me to trade it. Now, let me ask you, if you started seeing that kind of exceptional build starting off from 29 and you're seeing it in the 40s and 60s and 50s and then 30s, that's different because then it's laying out the foundations of the clear strategy. But it went to 30 on nothing. 29.80 is not something you can base your trades off. And then when it takes 30 out, it's ridiculous how much shares it does. So now you're waiting for a pullback, but instead the ensuing bar takes everything out at 30.50. Now the only good thing you know here is if it pulls all the way back and holds above 30, you got an entry because you got a solid foundation at 30, especially if it's not looking to break on sell. Did you keep that in mind? But what happened? You got 30 bids and it went right below. I looked for that as an entry. I'm going to be speaking over you quite a bit because there's a lot to learn here, and I know you're not going to pick it all up. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, no, I'm following you for sure. And I think, if I may add, so one thing I was looking for is that this didn't really have exceptional volume anyway. So that was just one piece that was taking a percentage away from, like, that part of the strategy. This was just clearly build, and it was just more hard to find out or to understand where the high percentage entry was.
Yeah,
Is that a fair sentiment?
yeah. Hey, I absolutely agree. If you didn't take a trade at all in this yet, or didn't see a high percent trade, I didn't either. I just needed it to bounce off 30 with some short term buying coming in, or something that shows me that there's no sell. That was key for me to then say, is this going to continue on just building and building up? Because there's nothing here clear. But when you got those 30 bids and somebody had sold off some, you're like, okay, now it's just getting, it has nothing, no clarity in strategy. So
So
carry
in
on.
terms of a plan, could you have
Press
planned
play,
a
though. Press
pullback?
play. Press
Uh,
play. No, go on. What are you saying?
Yeah, so at this time I was thinking of a possible entry below 30, let's say like 29.50. Knowing that they could build under 30 and knowing that there are prints on top, what I was thinking was that this can still build long. And that would just be a far, safer entry.
But why would it be 29.50? What makes more sense? What were the first prints that made sense in this?
The 30 ask
Wrong.
or the 29.80,
Where did it pull back to?
29.80.
So why would it go to 29.50 when it just pulled all the way back from 30.60 to 29.80? I mean, that's the first spot you'd want to look at. And then you got 30.17s. But even then, I can't create a trade off that. I just can't because that 30 ask was far too big of a number, and then 30.50 attaching to it. The first thing I'm thinking is most like possibly there's an area of build happen between 30-50. If the volume drops, it's going to drop below 30 and start building. That's what would typically happen right here. Boom, go right down. So if it does that, then the best entry possible on low volume would be over 29 again because it's a dollar pullback from 30, wouldn't it?
Gotcha.
Not everything's always clear. Their job is not to make it clear for you. Their job is to do their job. We just found that there's strategies they use to do their job that we have figured there's a high percentage day trade. But there's going to be plenty of times that it looks nice, but there's no way you can even at all figure out an entry. I couldn't find an entry in this. I was looking at this too. And then you start doing that and building again at 30 and low volume, and then it moves. How can you take that trade? Now, what is there that you could take here? Look at that volume.
Mhm. Yeah,
And then look, you see 30, 40s, and 45. So one thing's clear. They love this and they're building, building, building. But again, that doesn't mean that it gives us a high percentage entry, especially when you know that on the all exceptional build, we need to have exceptional volume. We don't want the volume to work against us when we know there's only one thing here that's in play, is that volume has to be highly consistent with prints. Highly consistent with building in order for us to then go with our exceptional build strategy. And I didn't see that. By the time that you see clarity, it's not tradable. It's not something that you can say, oh, I could have got in. No, there's just nowhere I could see. The only thing, like I told you, is 2980 doubled up and it was the first set of prints that mattered, and that that there's nothing but build on top. But it's still, you've got to get so detailed with that. And that would be the only place is 2980.
So kind of if you can like touch upon this, at times I notice that I can't really characterize why a trade is not tradable as quickly as something that is. Is that something that's like happened to you during your journey as trading?
You just got well off track. Let's stick to this first.
Mhm.
This is not question time. This is you reviewing a trade. So go through the trade and then we can answer questions later.
Okay. Yeah, thus far all we've seen is the volume being used to build, not much clarity within it, but we haven't seen any sell really.
But are you seeing a trade? Do you see a high percentage trade for yourself?
No.
Neither do I. And the only reason I know 2980, because I've just been doing this for so long, that I know if it's an area it should hold, and we could see a lot of work being done above, is 2980. That was the first time that we saw the presence of a market maker. Given it wasn't strong, it was the first set of prints in this, and then they doubled up. But guess what it does? Look what it does right here. It
Breaks
breaks
it.
right below. You're not even going to hold that. So they had one clear strategy in mind, and let's be honest, it was the same thing all day. They just wanted loads of shares, and for this particular instance, it was based off how ridiculously good Nvidia's earnings were. This is quantum computing. It's the next phase. It's the next thing that's going to be huge, and these are the leaders in quantum computing, IONQ. So when everything goes well within that sector, you could see that they have a huge outlook for a company like this. But here's the reality. Did they have a huge outlook today, or did we know this for the last 2, 3 weeks?
Oh, we need this for quite some time.
Yeah. Do you think that man who bought, or woman that bought at 12, I think it was 12 times at price point 27, do you think they had a clue?
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Who sits there building at one same number for days unless they really, really believe in a company and want a massive position, right?
Right.
So this is a good example of extremely tempting, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Extremely tempting. And I'm sure there's people who took a trade and have qualified their trade and validated their trade in whatever sense that they wanted. But the reality is, if you're trading by the rules that we set based upon years of screen time, data, and percentages, there was nothing here to take. I mean, at this point, it's hit 30, 50 3 times already, and it is no joke the amount of buying there, the buying at 30. I mean, if anything, you're going to look, what would you look for? Like, okay, a release? Okay, fine, a release. But then the release, the second it releases, it just goes right to 31 and buys a massive amount of shares, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This is a good example of something that adds so much validation to your longer term or shorter term, but you cannot find a day trade in this.
Yeah, it definitely does not fit the parameters of an exceptional build strategy.
No, it doesn't.
It just nice prints, nice building prints, and that's about it. And it's building kind of long.
Exactly.
And then even by now, you would have switched a while ago.
Well, I'm watching this anyway. I was watching it on another computer, but I knew from the way it was fundamentally moving and the way that they're employing their strategy, it wasn't going to fit into the dimensions of what we need for a high percentage trade. But do you think I'm watching this from my options position?
Oh yeah.
Let's put it this way. That options position at the end when it hit that 34 was up 374%, million. And I just took it 12 days ago.
Yeah.
You know, people like returns of 10, 12, 15%. Maximum 15 is a great return. 11 days, 343%. That's not bad. And guess what? Was that me being any smarter? Was that me just following prints and knowing how to plan positions off the way we can read prints, right?
Yeah, you're just interpreting the prints and the logical strategy behind them.
That's all it is. I mean, who did all the work in the prints? Was it me?
Nope.
Who did the work?
Whatever 20 UPenn analysts they got over there.
Yeah, exactly. The resources they have, we don't have those resources. These are multi-billion-dollar institutions. But when we are day trading, none of that matters, does it? Because for our form of trading, which is what we're here to review, we need to see the variables that work together for us to create strategies. Because here's the reality. You could, in so many times you could have took this and you would have been taken out, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And number two is the volume has gone down every single minute from basically that third minute. And what do we usually know when volume's going down? That they're finishing their work. But were they finishing their work? Not at all. Look at this. That's the fourth time. On the volume keeps lowering, and yet they keep sizing up their opportunity to acquire, don't they?
Yeah, they're clearly using this volume to build.
Yeah, whatever's available, they're just using it. That's basically what's going on. And how can we form a trade off that?
No, you can't.
No, it's not going to be possible. Now, this is where I found it really interesting. The first time we saw short-term off levels. After I saw all of this and realized exactly what their position was, I took a very small position on those 3059 million. Because now we've not seen anything but build, and you finally see small print personality that can move it to 31. If they re-establish the same strategy, I will be fine because I have 30, 50 protecting me, which is the top of the build. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it was such a small position, but I needed to test how the data provided to me meant one thing, and then how that build, which is so not textbook to what we see, then you see this short-term prints coming right above the area and top of the build, and then volume coming in. If there's ever going to be an entry to take it to that next area of build around the 31, that would be it, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So that was my entry, by the way. And it was so small. It was a very small position, but I read the strategy and understood that if there was ever a time where I can get away from my entry and have a high percentage possibility, it was there. But I knew with what we have witnessed in this that it's so non-traditional, it's not something that we can to a high percentage determine the next move, that I took it at an extremely small position. Because
So
what's
you
the other
essentially,
thing I'm doing is to take a position for me is also learning and understanding, is there any adaptations? Is there any subtle changes that I might need to be aware of to teach to you lot? But those 59s were completely different to what we've seen. We've seen everything acquiring at levels. And then you see 59 come out of nowhere. as if someone's saying, I'm going to jump in for a quick move towards 31. Now, if it stays in line with the same protocol or the same strategy, we should see a continuation of buying at 31. And if it lacks any sell and you see the buying coming up at 31.50, I'm just going to assume that that strategy is intact and it stays on course until it shows me different. Make sense?
Yeah.
I'm the one who's basically just reviewing this at this point, aren't I?
Yeah.
If anybody has questions, come on, because this is completely different. You can see I'm speaking all over this stock because there's so much that you guys can understand about how it can look so perfect, but there was no trade. Who traded this, or who now understands why there's no trade? There's only a few of us in the room. Feel free to come on.
Doug, I traded this, but on the short side after 32 was the biggest prints we had saw the day. And then I believe I saw some short term right under 31.80.
Okay, now let me tell you, Kevin, I would never, ever, ever, ever take a trade short in this because when they use anything available to acquire, there is such a strong sentiment that they just want so many shares. You've got to be very careful doing that. I would stay well aware of that. Well
I understand.
aware.
I had a very tight target. If it crossed 32 again, I was out. And then I think it was 80 cents is what I traded it for.
But remember one thing, you're still going against their strategy.
I understand.
If you went with the strategy, you would have made a few dollars. See, my entry there at 59, has anything changed in their strategy?
No, it's still buy.
Oh, exactly. Well, that wasn't my entry, 59. I followed 59. My entry was somewhere like 66, 67. Given very small position, because this is not textbook. This is not, the variables are not working the way we want them. But I could tell you one thing. I would never go against what they're doing in this because they have one clear goal, and that's to get everything they can. So what happens, you could potentially be looking at what looked like a short, and the very next second, a huge bar of buying goes up 70 cents, and now you're taking a big loss.
Yeah, I knew that was risky, and I did take a small position, like you had mentioned, just to basically learning and trying to be quick in and out.
Yeah, but just next time when you see the sentiment is this strong, Kevin, if you're going to trade it, trade with the sentiment. If you see that their buying is coming to an end, and that is how would you know that? Is very simple. If they're doing big buying and the volume starts waning off, that means they should be stopping their big buying, and what they're looking to do should be coming to an end. And if that end is nearing a top of a high psychological number, I absolutely agree that you can look for the transition of prints to now show we are done acquiring, the volume is lowering. Now somebody's going to transition in and take a small short position to ride it down and to continue the build. That 100% I agree with you, but this is not showing that at all. And it's so strong buying and going against the grain of how we typically see exceptional buying. I would never, ever trade against them in this one. Just be really careful next time.
I understand. And as soon as I saw buying coming back in, as I cut it, I had a target lower, but I was in profit, and I took what I had and got out and then left it alone after that. So I just didn't see another entry.
So now imagine this one, and I'm glad you did that. Very defensive, very smart. You also knew this was a very short term, but could that short you took have been a pullback entry for a long where you could have gone in for a couple of dollars?
It could have, and that was kind of my plans. If I saw the short-term position come in at the right above 30.50 is where I wanted it to make it.
Okay.
And that was that. I thought there might be a play back to 32, but with as big as 32 was, I didn't think it would be risk to reward there to try to play that back, if that makes sense.
Yeah. The problem that you have here is that 30, 30, 50, 31 were also that big that they needed a pullback. So this, what you might have seen and thought was a short position could also have been the selling they required it to bring it back down for more acquiring. which is what I'm going to guarantee you it probably was. It wouldn't have been a short position because market makers would not trade against other big market makers, but it could have been their same market maker putting some sell prints out there just in order to get it back to a place they can start buying shares back again.
Yes, and the volume had started waning off just a bit. I knew it was still heavy from the morning, but after that, after 32, I think it was 2 or 3 minutes later, around 90 or would have been 10:01
Got
Eastern.
it. Okay,
I was in it 2 or 3 minutes, I think, and then out.
Okay. Well, here's one thing I do like. You planned it. It seems you were looking for it. You saw it how far away it got with all the buying. You saw the waning volume. So I will give the fact that you actually planned it. You were defensive. You knew it was a quick move. I'm gonna give you a lot of respect for that. But on the flip side, if you changed your mindset and said their buying strategy is far too strong, anytime I see any type of selling or what the possibility of short-term prints, I'm looking for an entry back long lower. That's what I want you to start thinking.
Gotcha. So an entry would have been short-term prints around 3060, maybe 3062-ish, 3068.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The best entry list.
I know it wasn't really the smartest thing, but like I said, it was just a quick kind of saw what I saw and had the plan and knew I would be out quick if it worked out.
I'm okay with that. In the fact that you planned it all, you have all the right thesis behind it, your understanding makes sense. I'm not mad when you plan a trade the way you just did, but I'm just giving you what would have been a better plan. That's all. But what you did was right. No, I'm not taking anything away from you. To be honest, I love how you broke that down, why you took it. As all I care about as to teach you guys to trade is, as long as you have planned it, you know what your percentages are. I have no problem at all. But as a more experienced trader, I would tell you, what if the opposite understanding was actually better, of looking for an entry on a pullback rather than looking for a short from the top? Now you would have been playing with them, not against them.
Exactly, and it's like 3-1 would have been the numbers to, as far as on the reward side for that as well. So,
and you would have took more shares. Let's be honest. You wouldn't have gone less. You would have said, "This is, if I'm getting a great pullback entry and I know all they're doing is buying." You wouldn't have been as fearful of taking your typical shares. So just off the bat, you would have made 2-3 times more on the share amount, right?
100%, yes.
So, but still, really, really happy the way you plan things out and you talk things out. That's what I love to hear. Everything else, that's all just experience in time. It all come in. All of that will come to you really quickly.
And I believe I took another one similar, and it was very small as well in NVIDIA, where I entered at 143.80 after 142 short-term bid prints, and I cut at 144.10, I believe.
Okay.
I was just looking to play it back down, but it was like I said, very small on that as well.
Do you want to know what's interesting? I didn't even take NVIDIA at all, because when you try to enter that stock, you have to be so far away from levels. You have to be so quick, and then there's so many market makers in there. It just, the risk to reward wasn't there for me. I didn't even touch it.
Yeah, that was the only time I did, was that one, and then left it alone after that.
Yeah, you're the same as me.
Too many swings.
Too many swings. You can see so many different strategies being played in NVIDIA today. Like, for instance, this first strategy in pre-market was 140 to nearly 150. The second strategy was somebody coming in and buying every single share they could find from 150 to, I think, 154. Then it didn't even show that it was going to pull all the way back there was not even selling. It was such volume that you could not coordinate any type of strategy in there.
Yes, and that was the only reason I even looked at it then, is because it actually slowed down some after the 142, and I think it was like 5 prints on 142 bid, 5 or 6, and I had just 3 increments. So once it got to 143.80, it was a little bit above. I've entered, and then it wasn't long. I was out on stop loss.
Okay. And so I'm going to assume you took it short or based on those, right?
Yes.
So it's not bad, but look at one thing though. Again, all those prints aren't even the same timestamps.
Gotcha. I may not have noticed that on that as well. Like I said, I would have to look at the order to know exactly what time, but I know it was later in the morning. It wasn't just whenever all the volume was happening. My computer barely wanted to work at that time
Ah,
because it was so much volume.
no problem.
So, Doug, so the prints we got above 31, that weren't on a major level, that just more part of the build, right? That's not really shorter term because it's been showing build and the volume's been showing build.
It's all build. There's literally nothing else going on here but build. So even if you look at this volume, it's high volume, and even the lowest bars are still, you're talking a couple of 100,000 shares, and it's very clear what they're doing. And if I would have looked at this and said, well, it didn't even hit 32, that would be a concern for me because you've had no problem going and just attacking levels and taking all the shares that you want and on low volume, and now you want to stop. Given it's a $3 move, but it's just too many questions. We know what they're doing, but where do we fit in the trade? That's always a high percentage trade, right? That's the only question you're always going to have.
Mm.
So like if you were there and you're like, it pulled back, I still haven't seen any selling that matters. The selling was used to pull it back. I'm going to be looking for an entry on short term above 31.50. That's about the best you got there.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to go against what they're doing, and they haven't sold. They haven't shown you anything different to what they're doing, so you're taking that. And I think this is probably where Kevin would have been looking for a short after those big 32.
Yep.
It was, yes.
So those 31.98.
Yes, and I think I saw some. It was either below. I think it was below 80 a little bit.
Oh, okay. So you're waiting for more confirmation.
Yes.
Well, I can tell you right now, there's nothing. Now, I do understand what you mean by that is a huge bar, nothing but buy. I absolutely understand that, but they haven't showed you sell. You should see serious sell if that was it. If that was going to cap off the $3 build move, you should have seen some definitely type of sell coming in that says we're going to make some money on the way back down to at least 30.50.
I gotcha. Yeah, because it's really just volume stopped more than it did move to selling.
Yeah, but we've seen that.
Yes.
We've seen that multiple times in this. It will have massive bars and then just slow down, but then it's still buying.
Let's see. That was it there. The push to 50, I believe, is what.
Okay, I see what you mean.
It may have been the 75.
Yeah.
How that's the 75 and then the push to 50, and I believe I was in.
Okay, all right, fair enough. But I will tell you that did work out, and I'm really glad it did. And I still understand your sentiment on it, but that would never have been enough if that was truly going to come short. That would never have been it. That was literally selling to bring it back so they can acquire more. But does that not mean that you could get an interim quick short? It's not high percentage, but I can understand what you were doing. but there's no doubt they love this stock for the future, don't they?
Oh yeah, they just kept on building today.
And it's ridiculous. Kevin, are you just day trading or do you do long term as well?
No, I'm more of a long-term trader. I'm trying to learn the day trading art of everything. But like I said, like I've told you before, I've been doing this since end of 20, right around the beginning of 2021. So I started at the worst time
but
to trade.
I tell you what a blessing that you found us, because now you get to do your long term with Prince, and that's a whole different level.
Oh yes, and I was in ATC for I think 2 years or so.
Yeah, I remember.
Just like I said, just trying to pick it up, learn it, and just grow more every day and try to get out of my own way. A lot of times is my problem because
Yeah,
I know the things not to do, and then I'll just end up in something stupid, and I've had some setbacks here and there.
yeah, and that's all traders go through that. We just got to learn from our mistakes and make sure we don't keep repeating.
And then I got out right there, those 31.
Okay, yeah.
That would have been where I exited right around, I think it was like 30.90, 30.92. Because volume was still a little higher than average there, and I saw a couple. Even if it's a couple ask, it didn't take much to. With this being me going against the grain, I didn't want to get caught.
Yep.
Did you trade anything today, Doug?
Did I take a trade? I think I took a trade in pre-market. I didn't really like anything in the open market. I had to leave, I think, a bit early today as well.
Yeah, you did leave a bit early.
I think I left at like 10. But yeah, to be honest, I took the 31, I mean, the 59. That was the only trade I took. Actually, that was the only trade I took in the open market today. It was off those 59s. I just can't find a high percentage. And although at times I can read what a stock's going to do overall, I never want to get away from my discipline.
Yep.
It's simple as that. I just don't want to get away from discipline, especially when it comes to day trading, because you're trading so consistently that if you alter yourselves too much, that habit is just gone within hours.
Yep.
And so keeping consistent with how you trade is so important to give you consistent results, which also means you'll have days of a lot of trades and days and weeks of one trade, sometimes no trades, as I've seen all year. I've had so many days this year where I didn't even have a single trade. It just wasn't a high percentage, so I'm not doing it. But that's why you learn to do your swings, you learn how to do options. Because right now, although there might not have been a great trade in this, what it was doing for the options is amazing. What it's doing for your long-term swings is really good.
Exactly.
That's why you got to have a couple of strategies, because now that you know Prince and you know what's going to happen next, you don't need to wait for money time. If the acquiring is that large and significant, especially when it's going up in price point, why would you wait knowing it's got to get to certain places? Put your options on or take your swings and hold your shares. I don't know, whatever strategies are employed, but use those prints. They hold so much value. So, if you looked at this, and even though, look, Kevin was spot on, 31 goes, it was a $2 move, but it broke through 30.50, which was the massive area of build between 30, 30, 50. It holds 30, and then later on it comes all the way back up again, doesn't it?
Yes, and I believe it's because it broke through 30.50 that I didn't enter long there.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's so easy to look at this and say, oh God, where's my entry? Where's my entry? But if you really examine this, there is no high percentage entry. And the only entry that I saw that had some form of value was those 59 prints, which we hadn't seen to that point, which I believed had to have some significance to move to 31. That was it. And I took that for maybe 70 cents because I had to leave, or 60 cents. That was it. And there was no way I was going to hold that because of this. You know that at any point it could come all the way back down again. I mean, when I came back and I saw it was at what 32, 33, and then 33.50. I'm like, what? This is just them saying we absolutely look at this, Kevin. 30.04s. I mean, look at that.
And I
Yep,
think
it's
I
all built.
switched over to SMCI at that point. I was watching this in SMCI most all day, and
SMCI must have had a lot of buying too, didn't it?
it did all the way up to 30. A lot at 30. A lot at 30.
Now, where did we start seeing the buying in SMCI?
At 26 yesterday.
But it went before
Oh, well,
that.
way before that. But I'm just talking for. I
Yeah.
actually took a few shares to swing, and then took an options play um, on the move above 27 to 30.
Well done. I've got options in there as well for 9 months out. Why do you think I took far longer option plays than short?
Because this could go back to 100.
So, what is the chances it really makes its way back, given it's come down so hard? That far up, I don't know. But you're right in one thing. At one point, it had a valuation up in the hundreds. So I don't know what could happen, but I don't want to be there with options expired and this continues going either.
And we had actually another member of the group that we were talking about it today on the SMCI, and we had saw the similar sizing for 28, 29, and 29.50.
Yep.
They were all right at, I think, $1 million per hit. Well, then 30 hit and was smaller, but it hit 3-4 times over a 2-3 minute span. Would you still consider those prints smaller than the prints before?
Always.
And treat those as like a continuation print, or would the accumulation be more? Because it was like 1.5, 1.6 million whenever you looked at the 3 minutes that it hit.
So one thing you know with a stock like that, most of that is going to be long term.
Gotcha.
So the short term target was then shown to you because 30 dried out. So if I was looking at short term options and I saw 30 dried out when everything below it was significant, first I'm going to say there's far too much long term money in this. And two, the fact that 30 didn't have the significance, are they capping off its short term value? And I would have took out maybe 50% of my options just on that.
Okay, and I got out fully at 30. Just if I needed to re-enter top deal, I could. But,
Yeah, I'm with you.
I got out fully at 30 after
I'm with you.
that.
Yeah.
Just because of the sizing, and then volume again started waning off a little bit after that, and it did pull back a good bit. So, yeah, I think they're going to kind of hold it there until the end of the week around that 30 range.
Yep, I think so, because at the end of the day, that was more than enough buying underneath 30 for it to not get held up then at 30, and it should have gone to 33, 35, right?
Yeah, I had 32 as a target for if it broke
Yep.
above 30 again heavy, but it never really got the volume.
Yep, fair enough. No problem.
So we do, if you do still treat that as smaller prints, even though it hit multiple times, you don't combine those prints together, let's say at 30 to make them bigger than the ones before.
No, you if it hits 3-4 prints at a time, but it hits separately, you just still consider the size of the prints, but how many times it got hit, but you never add it all together. I don't like doing that.
Gotcha. And the reason why I got out too was just more because 29 and 29.50 hadn't pulled back, so I knew there was at least a little bit of chance that it needed to, and 30 being a major level.
Yeah, very smart thinking.
I had already moved $3. So take the profit and move.
I think that is absolutely well thought out. I love the reasoning, and you're right. Many times after huge build like that, and then it got weak at 30, it could pull all the way back to 25. So you're right. I'm with you.
I got you. And I got in 25 had bid yesterday that was pretty big, and then 26 right at the end. I got it in the last 10 minutes of the day yesterday on just a few shares just to swing it and see what happened.
So do you know there's this all swing traders are known because they always buy in the last 15 minutes. It's like an old folk joke, right?
Yes.
So don't do it.
That and the 146. I remember you saying somebody believes Nvidia is going to beat at 146, and that was with what Nvidia had projected and everything everything.
Isn't it funny how that shit works out? Like I
Yeah,
told you, like, it's a beat before it's a beat.
and the buying, I had buying at 30 the day before and after hours, but didn't hit in the market, and then came down and printed 25 bid huge. So I figured $5 pullback. I mean, 28 was
Yeah,
almost a given. So
well done. And you're spot on. And prints do not lie. And why do they not lie? Are you not going to trust the person that puts millions and millions and millions into it, especially minutes before the earnings?
oh yes,
I mean, I'm really going to favor that person. I can tell you that.
and they at 146 made $5-6 today,
Exactly.
and
And
had the volume to get out completely if they wanted to.
yep, yeah, 100%. 100%. I'm with you. You're spot on. Okay, is there any other questions? Otherwise, we're going to wrap this session up a little bit early. Does anyone have any questions?
Doug, for
Yes.
your options plays, are you ever managing or adding throughout a trade?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm adding. If I see there's a continuation in volume, continuation in buying, higher price targets, I'll absolutely buy. I'd go further out on new options. That's also based on the fact of, am I seeing that it's gone through that first run, it's going to go into phase two and pull back or stay steady for a few weeks or months? You got to be able to read that money flow. That's what's key. Now, if it's non-stop in volume, non-stop in buying, non-stop buying at higher prices, this is going to go on an intraday move. It's going to go on an intraday run. You got plenty of time and you're going to have plenty of movement in your options price. So you can definitely do that. But you just got to be able to read it correctly first.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Doug.
No problem. Okay, if that's it, everyone have a lovely evening and I'll speak to you tomorrow.